Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Redefining Resilience, how to understand the body's wisdom and its role in guiding others beyond trauma. My name is Lauren. I'm your host, and I'm so happy to be welcoming Jess into this space. Jess Maitri, actually, is a licensed clinical social worker. She is a certified yoga therapist, a breathwork facilitator, and intuitive energy healer. Like, whoa. So all of these pieces in one make up Jess. And I can't wait to unpack all these pieces because it's just incredible to see you move in the world in this way and owning all of it, right? Owning the spiritual side, the mental health side, the body, all of these different aspects and parts. I'll say holistic approach to healing, the whole body approach. And I realized I forgot to mention the creator of Yothera Method, which is huge. And I can't wait to talk about that later. But I didn't want to forget that piece. Sorry.
That's all relevant.
Yeah. Welcome, sister. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, now I want to go right in immediately because I know that the essence of your work is bridging this gap, which I want to talk about, especially for this audience in particular, is that gap between traditional mental health and Eastern practices, or would you call them practices? Or
yeah, it's like almost like a perspective as well, like just another perspective, Eastern perspective.
Yeah, an Eastern perspective or holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I'm going to ask you right away to tell me what that means for you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, what it means for me to bridge the gap has so far meant this new level of freedom that so many people, that at least that I have come across in my profession, are searching for, but they don't even really maybe even consciously know that that's what they're looking for. But there's this freedom that comes when you're able to expand past the mind and really bring that in to mental health, like specifically mental health, because even the word mental health implies that we're only working with the brain. So there's this, right? I mean, even just that alone is limiting. And to understand that as a mental health practitioner, you have access to the ability to do massive healing on this whole other level is really freeing and liberating for us, but also for our clients. So that's what it means to me to be a bridge, is to acknowledge the bigger you within the profession that you're working with. And I know I'm not the only bridge, but there's bridges everywhere. There's bridges in the medical profession and all these different professions that are doing more of this. So it's definitely a movement.
It is a movement. What you're speaking to is not new or as of recent. I keep hearing this, and I'm also listening to this part where you're identifying it's not about just the client or the patient, it's about the professional as well, the mental health practitioner.
Oh yeah. It starts there. That's my belief anyway, is that there a lot of times individuals that are in crisis, if you want to call it crisis, or they're going through transition and they're realizing that they're at this new stage of needing support, even if they don't know what that is, usually therapists are they're kind of like first responders to a lot of different issues. Yeah. And so if we haven't been able to meet ourselves on this deeper, like holistic level, then we're not able to really show up for the clients in that way, even if they're going through a massive spiritual awakening, but it's being categorized as this other, mental health disorder or something. So it's really important to be able to bridge that and to see that.
Right. So it starts with the practitioner first. It starts
Yes.
with the professional. And I'm getting a sense that something happened for you to say, there's something more, there's something bigger. And can you share a little bit about, maybe not a little bit, but what led you to this work, this idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2010 is when I started my private practice. I had just graduated, and I was one of those people that just went straight from school into private practice, which actually doesn't happen very often. It's kind of taboo. And anyway, I did it and it was great. But I was really in the, I was working with a psychologist and just like really in the mind. And then I would say maybe 2014 was when I found yoga. And yoga was my gateway, if you will, into this, the body, really. I mean, I was in my body and doing body work, but I really wasn't in my body until I found yoga. So that just started my journey in 2014. And then from there, probably around 2000, well, I went through the Phoenix Rising yoga therapy training after that and became a yoga therapist. And then along the way, all of these extrasensory kind of intuitive, you could call it psychic. I don't love that word, but those kinds of abilities were starting to come online in my work. And I wasn't trying to make it happen. It was just happening. And it was as a result of me opening my channels, me clearing energy in my own body. It was me understanding how to listen to my body differently. And then it was kind of just this natural result that just happened. And I actually feel like that happens for a lot of people, like a lot of therapists that start to get in their body, they start to do more of this work and they don't even realize it. So yeah.
So yoga was the gateway.
Yep.
Getting in your body with yoga was the thing that worked for you. And it connected you more deeply to your psychic abilities. And what's coming through for me is intuition. And I don't know if that's the same thing to you, or where does that play in, intuition?
Well, yeah, I tend to think intuition was for me, it was more of like a personal thing. Like I started receiving messages that were just for me from my body, and just for me from my higher self. And somehow along the way that started to expand into like my clients. Like they would come in, even before they would come in, I'd be getting these messages or insights about what's happening for them, and even like body sensations that weren't mine. And then they'd come in and have that be an issue. And it was just bizarre how it started happening. So yeah.
So you feeling it first, and for yourself, your intuitive ability to kind of own what's yours, and then having clients or patients come in and being able to connect to them more deeply on a visceral level. Whoa.
Yeah.
So how has that changed your practice? I mean, I'm sure everything has changed for you with that ability.
Everything changed. It actually, so it ties into how Yothera Method started. Was I started to, once these other abilities kind of started coming online for me, I could not keep them at bay. And so what I would do is I'd be using them without saying that's what I was doing, but I was very much using it in therapy, like really hearing the messages from their guides or their body. And then I'd be using the yoga therapy or these other techniques and really doing this deep energy healing with people in these sessions. And word got out, I guess, in my community that I was doing this work. And then I'd have other therapists start to refer clients to me. And I started realizing, like, no, this is something that actually more therapists need to learn how to do. Like, this isn't a one-person job. Like, this is something more people need to know how to do. Which is I would say about 2017 is when I started creating Yothera Method and just really started like putting words and language to what I was doing in therapy. So that's how it started. And here we are 2021, and it's just like kind of a toddler. So it takes a while, but yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're empowering mental health professionals.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I have practitioners that, span lots of different professions that take the courses, but it really was created for mental health professionals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can't help but wonder about those folks who might not believe in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And does that happen? Has that happened? Are you running up against that as you take this leap? Because it's a beautiful path, but I'm just wondering if there's any backlash in the mental health world.
It's funny you say that. Nothing so far has been like glaring, right? And it's interesting. And I'm surprised actually, because usually when I'm surprised that it hasn't been, but I think it's because I really do it in a way that honors the person as their healer. Like, I'm not healing anybody. It's like they're their own healer. So there's really just more of an empowerment piece to the client. So I would imagine if it was the other way around, I'd be getting more backlash, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So empowering, back to that empowering piece. And in the Yothera method, since we're already here, what are the tools that you've come up with? You said you had to put language to it. You had to put them in 3D, 2D, I imagine that's a whole process, right?
Yeah, it was
from here to paper.
Yeah, it was really stressful. Yeah, just because it's like, so, it's like birthing a galactic baby. It's like all this information and then you gotta make it linear. So yeah. So it first started, so internal family systems is one of the modalities I enjoy working with. And how that translated is using the archetypes in the Yothera method. So there's 12 archetypes. We do shadow work with these very specific 12 archetypes. And through that process, that's phase one. And the participant is able to identify their old story based on these very specific archetypes that we all have playing out. And so there's a lot of shadow work. There's a lot of basically digging for the gold, in the shadows in phase one. And it's more mind. So phase one is the mind. So we start there.
You have to start with the mind, right?
You have to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's phase one. How many phases are there?
There's 3. Yep.
There's 3. Yep. Okay. So can we talk about shadow work?
Sure.
A little bit. So identifying with the old stories and the archetypes actually help us in that process. And I'm curious why. What is it about seeing something else, an archetype, and saying, oh yeah, that's me? How is that healing?
Well, the healing aspect of the archetypes I found is they shed light on blind spots that we can't see. So the archetypes are just the tool that I decided to use for accessing those blind spots or accessing the defense mechanisms that, that we don't see consciously. So, when you put on the glasses of the victim archetype or the judge or the critic or any of the 12, then you're able to look at your life from this perspective and see things that you hadn't seen really before.
And what I'm feeling into is how challenging it is to go in and do that work, to see those parts of us. And I don't know how to call it the archetype, but it's more refreshing or helps me sit back a little bit to work with the very icky stuff that might be deep within me, right?
Yeah.
Accessible, I guess.
That's exactly it, Lauren, that you just said. It actually makes it so people can take a little bit of a step back and go, okay, well, this isn't me right now, right? The ego doesn't freak out as much when you're playing a role or looking at it from a archetype.
Yeah. Because jumping in it's not as easy as jumping in.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's some unconscious realms that you're exploring with mental health professionals right away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. And so is this where you bring in the embodiment piece? How does that kind of come in with, I guess, the Yothera method? Are you using it as a tool also?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's phase 2.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's great. That's just
phase 2.
It's a natural progression. Yeah. So once we dig up and really get clear on the old stories that are running their life, in the unconscious space, we move into phase 2, which is I call it embodiment instead of with an E. I use it with an I, because really it's just about being in your body. And this is where the unconscious mind speaks to us through the senses. And so there's embodiment practices, visualization. I do heart coherent breath and teaching them how to tap into just deeper messages from the body. And then through that process in phase 2, they're able to kind of refine their story. So they take the old story and they run it through this new intuitive system, and it starts updating through the body. It's really amazing.
I have chills.
Yeah.
I love that. I love how they're separate and they work next to each other, and it helps with this integration, it feels like.
Yes.
Yeah, and it may start to make more sense when we start to move or be in the body, and integrate what was brought up through the archetypes.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, step 3. I need to know now.
Yeah, yes. So yeah, so after phase 2, at the end of phase 2, the goal is that the participant has an idea of the new story. So they've taken the old story, they've ran it through the filter of their intuition, their heart, their body, they've refined it, and they've got a new story. And then phase 3 is being seen. Actually, it's being seen is love. That's the theme of phase 3. And so there's a whole witnessing piece of actually being seen by others in your new story. And it's the most powerful, like by far, is this phase 3, because this is the part that, like, we don't really let other people see us. We think we do when we're on social media and sharing and doing all the stuff, but we're actually still kind of wearing a mask a little bit. Even though we're speaking from authenticity, there's still a little bit that, we're not really saying. And so this container facilitates this really vulnerable, deep sharing of their new stories and being seen in that. And then there's also practices of taking it one step further and sharing it with your family, sharing it with your community, and all of that. Yeah.
Wow. So you're really taking people through a journey of healing, and it sounds like you're giving them these tools, but it's an opportunity to look within, to be within, embodiment, to learn more about ourselves. And wow, what powerful work that is.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing to witness. Yeah.
What's your vision with Yothera Method? I have to ask. I mean, like, I know it's in this birthing process. I know it's in building at the moment, and I'm just curious, like, where's this heading for you?
When it first started to come through, like, it really was this download a few years ago where it was just really like, I want to come in, I'm ready. And what it would tell me was that like, there's something about changing the face of mental health. Like, it's part of that mission, I guess, on Earth, where there's a needed adjustment that needs to happen in our mental health field. Social work, therapy, counseling, all of it needs a little bit of an adjustment. So I suppose the bigger vision would be giving therapists more available options for using all of themselves. Like, I really want to empower therapists because so many of us are empaths. That's why we went into this field. And a lot of them are just very stuck and not able to fully express their gifts. And I'd love to give them an opportunity to express themselves more deeply. Freedom. Yeah.
More freedom. And I love what you just voiced and brought attention to, is that whether you're a mental health practitioner, a healer, a facilitator, like, something calls us to serve. And if we're not working with our own stuff, our own bodies, or paying attention to our own intuition, we can get stuck. We can get overwhelmed, or I don't know. For myself, I've come up against a wall so many times where I just can't do any more or take on any more clients unless I take some space and figure out what's going on.
Yep.
And I've learned to get a little bit more ahead of the game, but it took some running up against that wall so many times.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But and speaking to, like, the heart, the nature of us to serve, like, that's so very there for mental health practitioners to go into this work to serve and help people. And it seems like it just requires a whole lot more work on ourselves to do that.
It does. And part of the phase 2 is actually learning how to use our heart energy more efficiently. because women, a lot of the mental health professionals are women, most of them actually, it's 80% at least. And we're just wired to give from our heart. We're just wired that way. And we're burning out because we're not sure, we don't know how to use it. We don't know how to use the earth and be supported in these other ways. And so that's part of it, phase 2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
May I ask you about using the earth?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? I mean, tell me more. Using the earth.
Yeah, it's one of the main tools of Yothera Method is anchoring into the earth and using that as our support. I mean, there's an archetype in Yothera Method that's called the Earth Mother, and she helps us to understand how to fully support our new story going forward and support ourselves every day, and keeps us accountable to that. It's basically the mother archetype that we didn't have. Like it has nothing to do with our birth mother. Actually, it has to do with this bigger mother that we've been severed from, this bigger support that we all long to come back to. So we use her in lots of different ways. A lot of it is just learning how to ground, learning how to put a grounding cord, and also these visualizations for feeling our energy back up using the earth and running it through the heart.
Yeah, and I'm visualizing just this energy of being held by the mother, like just when I can sit back in that and feel held and supported, I feel like that's where my creativity comes, where I'm able to take action from, where I'm able to relate and connect to others. But it's that sitting back, feeling supported and held by the earth where I always have to come back to first, like the very first step. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's very relational. Like if you think about it, it's how we first learned how to be in relationship was with the mother. And we almost have to relearn that as an adult of like how to have a relationship with the mother. It's like a very root chakra healing of that energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, listening to you speak today about archetypes and spiritual practices and all of this, it just doesn't feel so woo-woo when you say it. And when you in particular are sharing this information, it's like it just makes perfect sense. It feels tangible, feels supportive. And I feel like a lot of people will resonate with that, especially, in this audience. So I'm appreciating you taking this work out into the world.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that's part of it, is making it less woo-woo and just more accessible.
Yeah, and it's very clear, how you're making it relatable and bridging the two. Like you were speaking, you have the mental health language, you have, what we've been what mental health practitioners have been so used to, and letting them integrate that into a new way of being.
Yeah.
So this new story, I just want to kind of rewind back a little bit, because I'm envisioning you taking folks through this beautiful journey, this going in, this going deep, rewriting a story. And I'm curious how getting in the body, doing this work, how does it help rewrite the story in particular? Like, can you break it down, simplify it in the way that you do so well?
No pressure. No.
Well, yeah.
Okay. No, yeah.
Get in the body and more will happen, or like something happens to us when we pay attention to sensation, right?
It is so much simpler than we think, actually. Our body is always speaking truth to us. We just are not listening, and we just don't know how sometimes. So we're just not attuned. That's all it is, but it's literally always speaking. And so how we rewrite a story through the body, well, first of all, the body holds not only the old story, but it holds the new story. So first of all, it's almost like you have to clear the old story out of the body before the new story emerges. It's like shadow work. So I like to say, when you shine a flashlight in a cave, all the bats come out. So it's like, you're like, okay, body, show me. And it's like, well, let me clear out what's not truly you. Let me clear out all the bats first. So it holds all the trauma. So that kind of has to come out. That's more phase 1. But then once that's cleared as best of our ability, then the new story starts to emerge because we invite I call it the innocent perspective. So the innocent is one of the archetypes that we work with in the body. And this innocent perspective lives in the heart and it informs the new story. So it's like accessing your higher self through the body. And so it's almost like learning how to see your old story, but also access your new story simultaneously. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. So what I'm feeling into is asking, when there is trauma, right? It can't, like for myself, I've had to bring in these old stories, and I've had to work with them, let them be present in my life for some time, to kind of get to know them a little bit more. I don't know. And I've noticed this natural evolution or this dissipating. I'm not thinking about it, or I'm not so attached to the thing, or the feeling so much, and I let it have that process. So when I'm hearing you say, remove the old story, is it so easy when there is trauma held in the body to just remove the old story?
Yeah, let me rephrase that. We don't remove it. It's more, how do I say it? It's the old story. What's the word? The old story informs the new story. So it's the guide. It's like, we don't want to get rid of it. It becomes an ally.
Okay.
So it's like the shadow work of it is the old story and the archetypes. And all of a sudden, let's say the prostitute archetype was part of your old story. She now becomes your ally for the new story. And she's the one that shows you when you're actually not in your value, right? And so she now becomes your ally.
Wow.
And I don't know if that answered your question very well, but.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Bringing
Okay.
it in, working with, and for me, that very much defines resilience for me, is seeing the whole spectrum, all the parts of us, the archetypes, working with them, seeing when they're present, what they need, or but yeah, just having that freedom again to explore, to get curious, so it's not so suffocating. At least for me, it was quite suffocating because I wasn't wanting to meet any of them. I was like, I'm done. I'm moving forward. I'm on my spiritual journey, and we're done.
That's most people have that. And that's okay, because they're just like, why would I take this class just to stay in my old story? It's like, well, you have to actually be with it so that it can heal. We can't just bypass it. Yeah.
Right. And some of us have to learn the hard way.
Most of us do. It's okay.
Yeah. One of my learnings was lying on the couch because I had such significant chronic back pain that came out of nowhere. Wow. And I knew, like, intuitively, I'm like, there's more, there's something to explore here. And I mean, that sounds so simple, and it's not easy when you're in that type of pain to say, oh, there's work for me to do. It's like, I want to just get rid of this pain. Yeah. But after, I think, many years of coming up against the wall, I know myself now, like, there's something you're not looking at, something about you, not anybody else, but there's something about you, Lauren, that you're not looking at.
Yeah. Can't hide. We can't hide from ourselves, can we?
No, it's a practice and it's not easy. So sometimes having a guide or someone like you who has really taken this work in yourself, and you're really sharing it out with the world as a wonderful guide. I'm just so grateful for your work. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciating you. I do want to ask if you could share with everyone where they can find you. Like, do you have a website, social media? Like, how can people connect to you or learn more?
Yeah, the first website would be yothera.com. So YOTHERA, yothera.com. And that's where you'll find all the information about the 10-week group, which is what Lauren and I just talked about, as far as the first process and going through it as a person, not a practitioner. So before certification program, the certification program, everyone has to go through the Yothera method first. And so that's part of the being in integrity. So that's, yeah, part of it. And so that you can find all that information on that website. You can look at the certification program. And then you can also go to jessmaitri.com. And that's a different website that has, if you wanted to connect with me for professional mentorship or personal mentorship, that's, and I also do insight readings as well, which is just a session where I connect to your guides and intuition. Yeah.
Beautiful. And tell us about your freebie, because tell us about your freebie that you're offering.
Yeah. So the freebie is, it's pretty in depth, actually. It takes you through a self-guided the three phases of the Yothera method. And it's like very self-study. You can take your time. It's called 3 weeks to your new story, because I would suggest taking the full 3 weeks and really integrating phase 1 and then 2 and then 3, not just rushing through it, because it's, there's videos and there's journal prompts and there's exercises that you can do with other people in your life. It's pretty in depth. So yeah, that's a really great way to have a taste of the work.
Yeah, what a gift. I can't wait to take that on. I mean, what a nice taster. Or 3 weeks is enough, as a long time to get some information. So yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
So is there anything on your heart that you want to speak to? Because I don't want to cut you off. And if there's anything else you want to share to the audience today before we close.
I'm just really grateful to have been invited here and excited to connect with more people that are feeling this and feeling this vibe that you're also holding space for. And I'm just excited to meet more of us on this journey. So thank you.
Yes, beautiful. Well, thank you, Jess, for being here. It's an honor to hear you, to be in conversation with you. It just feels so aligned, and just appreciating you showing up to the space, to the summit. And thank you to everyone who listened in and who's connecting with us. I appreciate that also. And I look forward to seeing you, or I look forward to the next interview, and I hope that you stay tuned. All right. Bye-bye.